Pause what you're doing, please. Look at me. Advanced photography students, I know this is terribly difficult to see. If you need to look over there, you can. Another example of David Hockney assignment today, I'd like you to basically pick up where it is that you left off by physically arranging these. You should put them on foam core board. Do not put them on illustration board or mat board of any kind because it's going to warp too much. Photography students, advanced photography students, I can answer any questions you have in a couple of minutes, but I want to get photography students started. So, when I say go, photography students, I'd like you to stand up, as we usually do, come crowd right here, please. So we can talk about our next assignment. Go.
Hey, Will, how's your check? I was not going to check.
Yeah, if you're in back and you can't see me, or if you can't hear me, especially if you can't see me, you're going to probably want to glance at that screen, because I can even read that one a little bit better. Here's the gig. I think yesterday, tune in for a couple of minutes, please. I think yesterday in the lab, with the found name, which tries on me. I think the found name assignment, most of you started finishing that up. And I saw with your Flickr accounts, I saw a lot of them pop up there yesterday. If you're not, you're going to be able to continue that tomorrow in the lab. And then after that, you're going to be able to kind of pick up with this assignment, but I want to get the ball rolling. And I'm going to give you a very specific assignment to accomplish today. The assignment I give you today is going to be practice, but it will go into Thursday. For this next assignment, I actually give 2 practice assignments. One will be today, and then Thursday I'll give you the second practice assignment. But they both kind of get meshed together ultimately, and you'll see over time that you'll be able to balance them. You'll have enough time. So here's the thing. First things first. This assignment I call the artist imitation or photograph imitation assignment. Your learning goal specifically is this. Listen very carefully. Your learning goal is to explore the arrangement of a composition. So here's what that means. You're going to find, in summation, you're going to find somebody else's photograph. Look right here. You're going to find somebody else's photograph. The photograph that you find has to be completed by a professional photographer. So tomorrow in the lab, after you finish your found name assignment, I'm going to put a couple of links on my blog, and you're going to be able to start looking at different photographs created by famous photographers. I'm kind of strict about the famous photographer because most of them have strong compositions. We talk about that all the time in here, and that's what we want to mimic. And ultimately, you're going to be imitating that composition. You can get creative with it by doing some sort of interesting spin on it or an interesting take on it, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But what you're going to have to find in the lab is somebody else's photograph that you are then going to imitate. So it almost becomes kind of a satire. In other words, you could kind of play around with it and make it a little bit interesting, and you can make fun of the photograph a little bit if you want. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. But the arrangement of the composition is your learning goal. That's what you'll be exploring. I know this is difficult to read, so if you have to glance back there occasionally, you may want to do that. In fact, I'm going to ask everybody to glance back there right now. I'm not going to talk behind you, we'll look together. That'll be the best. Because you're going to be able to read a little bit more. I'm going to come back to our agenda specifically today. But what I want you to look at are a few photographs. I think this was taken by Victoria Welk a couple of years ago. This is I can't remember who the original photographer is, although it's written there. It looks like Thomas Mann. But anyways, I think the photograph on the left is her imitation of the professional photographer's photograph, which is on the right. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I can't remember whose photograph that was. I should have written it all down. This one was probably one of the first really, really good ones that I got. And if anybody remembers, that was Shelby Summer. She graduated last year. So the guy on the right is, I think it's an Andy Leibovitz photograph, and the guy on the right is Woody Allen. So he's sitting on his bed, he's got a pad of paper and the pen and stuff like that. Now look at the arrangement. This is where the details of the composition become really, really important. If you look at the position of their hands, it's identical. The position of the paper is almost identical. The perspective, in other words, where the camera's pointing, is identical. Their head is cut off in exactly the same place. Where this gets playful is that the photograph on the right is of a famous, he's a film director. He makes films. He actually pumps out a film every single year. But where this gets playful is that you've got this old guy on the right in this position like he's getting ready to write. And you've got Shelby, this young girl, putting on these big glasses and kind of almost being representative of him. So that's where it gets almost satirical. It gets kind of comedic in nature. It's almost like she's kind of playing with the photograph, poking fun at it a little bit. But the arrangement itself is almost identical. Here's what I want you to tune into. Look at the shapes and the lines and the lights and the darks and the placement of the objects. That's what Shelby was really good at imitating. If I jump back to Victoria Wells, hers is a little bit more difficult to control because she picked a tree branch. So that's a really hard thing for her to arrange. Where Shelby, because she was sitting there with like a pad of paper and a pen and a pair of glasses, she could manipulate her environment. Where if she was taking a picture of a tree branch, like Vicky was, it wouldn't have been quite so easy. Here's another one. The famous photographs on the left, Diane Dietz recreated it on the right. Here's another one that is close, but it's a little, the composition itself is a little bit different. This was created by Audrey Fox. The one on the left is the original. It's a photograph of Marilyn Monroe sitting on the couch reading. And Audrey, I think that's Audrey's mom. And she actually, you can see it, she tried to get the exact same perspective. I think the foot on the one on the right is a little bit bigger than Marilyn Monroe's foot on the left. But generally speaking, I mean, she nailed down a lot of the composition. If I was going to be very, very critical, I would say this. The knee should have gone almost off the page. If you look at the knee on the back side, it actually should have gone up to the very top of the composition and then therefore out of the frame a little bit. In this assignment, it's going to be really, really important that you pay attention to all of the details, all of the lines and the shapes. Everybody turn to look right at me now for a minute. You have to remember, we did a perspective assignment, and so you know, if I took a picture of Hunter right here, and then I take a picture of Hunter right here, I've just changed the perspective. So when you're recreating a photograph, you're going to have to be really careful that you're actually creating the exact same composition, because that's what I'll be looking for. Go like this if you're with me so far. Check with the person sitting next to you, see if they have any questions. If they do, raise your hand. Or shout it. Today, all right, turn to read with me. Today, here's what your agenda is. And again, if you don't finish this today, that's okay. This will go into tomorrow or Thursday as well. But here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to find 3 photographs in magazines. How many? 3 photographs in magazines. You have to make them easy enough to imitate, because you're going to practice imitating them. You're going to get with a partner or a group. I would say don't let your group go over 3, 4 people max. I prefer not to have a group of 6 unless there's 6 people in one of the photographs that you're trying to imitate and you talk to me about it first. I've had some students do that. And then the third thing I want you to do is to practice imitating those photographs. I want you to think about the perspective, the placement of the subject. Turn your head and look right at me. If someone in the photograph's arm is like this, and you make it like this, that's a big difference in the composition overall. Ansel Adams, the guy who went out and took all those landscapes and the beautiful mountain photographs and waterfalls and all of that, he said something that people have been repeating in the world of photography for years. He said, photographers don't take photographs, they make them. I like that because he puts the pressure on us to control what it is that we're doing, instead of just going, click. I mean, we talk about how we get lucky on things all the time, the serendipitous moments, and that's great. But it's much better if we create it ourselves. Here's an example of what you're doing today. I know it's good to see here. If you look up here, the one on the left is a photograph that Audrey Fox found a few years ago when I had her in this class. And she ripped out the photograph of this guy, and then she went and tried to recreate it. Perhaps not identical. The camera she should have been facing more towards the camera, but it's close. Listen, I know there'll be a lot of questions along the way. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments for the greater good right now? Good. When I say go, grab Purple magazines, start thumbing through, find 3 photographs, give it a partner or a group, start creating. Go. Yes, sir. What? I have. You mean